Hello and welcome everyone to our Saturday stream. I'm Josh and this is our map and image creation. This is where we go over all of our image related news as well as all of the usage of our built-in map creation functionality inside of Fantasy Grounds Unity and demonstrating all of the different ways that you can interact with that system to make successful maps as well as become a little bit more fluent in the way that the system is set up in the design process, as well as all of the other functionality as line of sight, lighting, everything in that kind of genre. So I stream every Saturday from 3 p.m. Eastern Time till just about 6. And but I will not be here on the following weekend, as where it'll be a holiday here in America. So I will be taking this next Saturday off from the stream. So if hopefully everyone will be able to get through the weekend without it. But thanks everyone for joining me today. So what we're going to go over is the first thing is upcoming releases for July will be a castle map pack as well as medieval buildings, which should be super exciting. I can't wait to show that stuff off to you guys. So we'll be getting to that this next month. And the latest releases, I believe, were 2 Western art packs. So we had exterior and interior. We might dive into that one a little bit today as well. So show some of the usage of the actual underground stuff that's kind of involved in that, which should be pretty good. Like to make caves and caverns and mines and so on and so forth. But what have we been working on? I believe that last week we worked on, it all kind of blends together to me now, but also there will be coming out, should be any time now on the Forge. Everything that we make here goes onto the Forge. So a whole 2 other modules of maps. I believe there's about 30 in all, which will be up there. And you can download that for free as long as you do have access to the map packs that we use in the creation process. You can do that either through the Art Subscription or through the purchasing on the store. Art Subscription, I believe, is $5 a month or $50 a year, and so far we've released 30-something art packs. And we release at least 2 a month. So that is certainly well worth it. There's tons and tons of content in there, lots of stuff for you guys to create. Also, one of the things that I've been working with, and depending on how it'll be received by you guys, but to more pre-made maps rather than just the images to create them. Obviously, we'll always be producing those. The tools are set up so great for creating your maps inside of Fantasy Grounds, but also some like pre-made maps where you can just kind of grab and throw them in there or use them as a base to build right on top of it, which is something that I get requests from it from occasion, more finalized kind of images, and so trying to find the time to get it all done can be a little bit tricky. So it's a constant work in progress. So your feedback is more than appreciated. Anything that you guys would like to see created in the future, or if there is something that you see that might be missing as far as the art products go, please let me know. I love to hear all of your guys' feedback and everything, and we try to take that very seriously and always into consideration when we're planning out what is to come. But without further ado, we can just kind of jump right into this here, begin to make some stuff. I believe... What were we working on last week? Desert Sands, I believe we did, right? We did. Yeah, that's great. So this is from Drake Star Dragon. Maybe each art pack you include a couple maps, and I do that oftentimes, one in a couple of different ways. There will be either like a pre-made map in there. So if we were go into let's pull up some of our assets here, and we'll go into our images. We don't want to be in portraits. So let's say we will go into interior map pack. In the backgrounds, you'll see that there are actually a few pre-made ones here. So here we have, and it's actually a pretty fun one that I did a while ago. Oh, that's right, we did a temple, didn't we? Yes, desert sands, and we also did a temple. That's right, I remember now. We can check that out in a moment as well. But here we have like a pre-made, and this is all using exactly the same assets that are in the art package. So we can create an image record from this. And let me just open this up here. And you can see that this already has all of the line of sight added right in there. But one of the great things about the way that this is done, and let me just switch over here. I'm going to turn off these for a moment so we can kind of look at this in a different way. All of these images and this particular building, an example, we have it's several floors and they all match up. So you can just kind of stack these right on top of each other, something like this. And there's even a basement as well, which this would go on the bottom, obviously. So many of the art packages do indeed have pre-made maps that you can kind of use, all ready to go. Not all of them, and some of them what I do is even if when I create the art package, I will do a lot of test maps to make sure everything is working the way I intend it to be, and make sure that everything is functional. And in that process, I save all of those maps and I also put those on the Forge as well. So there'll always be some sort of content that comes with the art packages in addition to that. But yeah, so you could actually come through here and you can hide these. One of the great things about the way that Fantasy Grounds Unity functions is that if we hide this layer, we switch over here, you can see it also hides all of the line of sight that is attached to that. So you can set this up a couple of different ways really, really easily here. And if we turn these all back on, my favorite way to kind of work with this, you can see that this is all going to be interacting lots of different line of sight stuff here. And let's switch this over. So what I actually like to do when I'm working with this, and I will do this all in the same image record here, is I will have all of these set up next to each other, something like this. We can kind of put these in order here. Might be working a little bit better. And one of the reasons why you want to do it this way is so that the line of sight is remembered between elements. But you can still use the same image record and then just move them from one section to the next. Obviously, what we would do is you would want to limit your line of sight to one particular map, but you don't really have to worry about it too much. With these other areas, these are going to be very contained. So you'd only have to do it like right here, and all you would have to do is switch on to the first level here and just encompass this as well in something like that. Super easy to do. And then you could explore this, and well, as I said before, it's just a preference. I mean, you can do this any number of ways, depending on how you want to interact with that. So yeah, we also made a temple. Let's see. I wonder what we named our temple. I have no idea at the moment, but it's there somewhere. I'm sure of it. Yeah, we made it with a skull shape and did some really fun stuff there. And that is not it. That was something that we demonstrated a while ago. Why don't we just delete that? And stream test, we can delete this one as well. That was when we were first going over the new tools themselves. We made this tavern a little while ago. This was a couple of weeks ago. And we built our little tavern over here all from scratch. Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And we move it in. So the question is from Damien on YouTube. How can you choose what the player sees? Well, it's all automatically done based off the surroundings, the lighting system, the line of sight, and all of those things. So once the player is put onto the map, for example, from the combat tracker, so if we grab our little buddy Bob and we drop him in here, we want to make sure that we have all of the elements turned on here. This is going to allow me to see things as he is going to see them from his character. So there's no way for me to really limit, without interacting with this system, what he sees, because it's going to be determined by the lights. You can see that this door is open. I can shut this. And then he's going to have a little bit of a memory of what is behind here, which is going to be this like dark grayed out element over here. But all of the system is very intuitive, and it is all determined just by setting up the environment itself. One of the great things about Fantasy Grounds is that it's smart enough to be able to interact with that system independently. And so even if we were to have certain elements here, I'm just going to close down my images here for a moment. We can open up the combat tracker again. Let's take an enemy, for example, and we'll drop him down in here. You can see here that there are ways that you can hide and show NPCs. This is going to be agnostically or environmentally as agnostic, meaning that if I hide or show all of the NPCs from the combat tracker, regardless of the environmental effects that are going on, it'll either hide them. But to show them, for example, we have this door shut, and if we switch over to what Bob sees here, which is when I have him selected here, if I unselect him, as the GM, I'm going to be able to see also what the goblin sees. And so if I switch over to here, you can see that the goblin, this is grayed out, which means that he cannot actually see that other character here. So if I move Bob around here and I open this up, now as he moves through this door, let's open up this one as well. Because he is hidden in here on the combat tracker, but if you can see that now he becomes lit. So one of the way that the system works is now when I come around the corner here, he's going to disappear once again. And that means that the system is going to independently hide him based off of certain parameters. If he's behind line of sight, but it's also handled by the lighting system in general as well. So let's say, for example, we have some dark corners in this other room. I switch over to Bob, and because Bob cannot see into the darkness, he has no line of sight or different types of lighting or sight abilities. For example, he's not going to be able to see this goblin because he's hiding in the darkness. It's too dark for him to actually see him. So all of those things are going to come into a collaborative effort for what your player is actually going to see. Now, if you wanted to limit what your a radius that your player can see, you can do that inside of your vision elements as well. So if you go into our token vision, you can actually limit that to a particular radius if you so desired. So all of that is kind of like a setup for the environment itself. And as you can see here, let's switch back over to play mode, and I'm just going to turn off my player view here. So when I deselect this character by clicking on it again, I can kind of get an overview, but when I select him once again, you can see I can kind of see what he has available to him. Again, moving him into this environment, we have a little bit of light that's coming down and some light on this side as well. So as he moves around, all of this is kind of visible to the player itself, and we can see more realistically what the player sees in this environment. To demonstrate a little bit more about the lighting system, I can add a light to this token. I have it selected here, And switch over to token light, and we'll do give him a candle, for example. And I'm just going to add that to my player. You can see that has now placed a candle on this particular character. So now when he walks into this area, he's going to be able to see this goblin because he has a light source that's going to light up that dark environment. But as he moves away and that light source comes out of there, you can see once again that is hidden. Hopefully that kind of answers that question for you. There's a lot that goes into it, and it is all very much dependent on the rule set. So all the lighting systems, the token vision systems, all of that takes into account the actual rule set that you have loaded up. I'm in Core RPG, which is just the very fundamental basic system by which many of the other systems are built on top of. So if you were playing a 5e, for example, of Dungeons & Dragons, then this system was going to be completely tailored to those rules. So we'll delete the tokens there, and we can close this down. That's an old dungeon that we created a while ago. And it's no longer there. Are there any other questions about some of the functionality of the system itself before we kind of move on here? Start to make a new environment, or we could go in. I'm interested to these are other demonstrations of like the dungeon art pack that we did a while ago. Oh, you know what? We might have actually made it. I'm not sure. Oh yes, there's quite a lot Drake takes. Uh, there's quite a lot of roof assets as well. So let's just type in. We can just type in roof. There's tons of brushes as well as new fill elements. And I actually went back, and these ones are from a different art pack. But here we have this one's from Modern or Abandoned Places, I believe. This one is from Western Art Package. Here we have Modern Houses, Medieval Machines, Western Map Pack, Mr. Map Pack 2. Those are from. We have, this one's from a newer art pack that will be released coming up shortly. These ones are all from the Interior Map Pack 2. And I actually went back and I redid a whole bunch of some of the other elements and created some fill elements for roof elements. So here we have, these ones are all from test art packs. So if we were to grab, let's say for example, this one from Map Pack 2, here we have these roof shingles. We can use this in the new fill element. So let's create a new workspace here. And we can close down our images at this point. And let's just drag this open so that we have a nice little workspace that we can kind of work with here. Jumping into the painting tab, I'm going to create a new painting layer. And we'll move over to the rectangle tool. And I'm going to turn off the stroke, and I'm just going to grab this and drop it right into my fill area here. So you can see as and I'm going to snap on my grid for the moment. You can see as I drag this out, this is going to create a section of some shingles. And so we can actually go into and design some buildings here. And in fact, this is going to kind of lead into a lot of a couple of the new art packs that are kind of coming out here. But this is a great way for you to create these new kind of environmental things. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to flip it, and then I can come on to the other side. You can see that these shingles are going in one direction, and then I can come over here and I can drag them in an opposite direction, something like this. Because these are all in the same layer, I can easily go into my Layers tab, and I can change all of these colors. So maybe if I want to make this a little bit more on the brown side, we can do something like that. And what I'll do is bring it right down the middle, and I can change these after the fact as well. So if I want to make this a little bit more even, and I can just snap this right to the grid, so I can have a nice square element here. Let's go into the interior map back 2, and here we have a whole bunch of different kind of elements here. So here we have more shingles and so on. But I'm actually going to switch back over here, turn off my fill, and I can grab like this wood beam, and we also have this roof peak, which I can just drag into my stroke element here. And what I can do is I can now use this to add a nice little peak right to the top there. We can go into our decorations, and I'm sure that there is probably like a chimney. And here we can just grab one of these, and we can switch into our, make a new painting layer here, our stamp tool, and then we can also add in a nice little, and we'll put it at a little bit of an angle here, something like this. Let's see, will there be, or is there now, a way to clip part of an image and paste it onto a new image? Yeah, you can certainly do that. You can do that inside of with the actual fill itself. Do you have a use case scenario you'd like me to demonstrate? I can certainly show you how to do any of that. If you give me like a little bit of a scenario. So for example, I can just kind of show you something. Let's go into the dungeon art pack. There's something in there that will probably demonstrate this a little bit for you. So in the dungeon art pack and the floors, for example, there's this fire pit that's in the middle of this. Maybe I just want the fire pit, and I don't want this surrounding area here. So I'm going to go over here into my rectangle tool, and I'm going to turn off my brush. I don't want that. And I'm going to drag this into my fill area here. And what this is going to do is I'm going to allow me to kind of clip out whatever section that I want to use right there. So I'm just going to drag out a little section here, maybe something like this. I'm going to switch over to my edit fill, and I'm just going to move it to the section that I want right there. Now there's a couple of ways that I can kind of interact with this. I can either go over into my edit, and I can bring these in. Let's turn off our snap for a moment, and I can just kind of bring this in, something like that. And just have this completely exposed. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to bring it out a little bit further, because what I can do is inside of this fade area here, I can fade this out. So if we go into our edit fill here, you can see that there are some different ways that we can interact with this with our keyboard and mouse. Now if I hold down F and I use my mouse wheel, I can actually fade out the edge of that. So now I have this perfect little kind of faded out section in there. Maybe I'll make it a little bit more like this. And I can kind of maneuver this back and forth until I get it exactly where I want it to be. I can grab all of these and maybe move it right over here. So you can see that I can now clip out any sort of section that I want from a particular image. It doesn't have to be a rectangle. I just chose a rectangle because it happened to be the shape of the image that I was working with there. But yeah, so you can do this with any image. I could even take, for example, let's go into our rectangle here, and if I go back into the interior map pack here, I can grab an entire map. So maybe something like this one, and I can drag this in here, and I can actually just pull out. I'm going to make a new painting layer just to demonstrate this. But let's say I drag out a section of this, and I want to switch over to here, and I want to use maybe just this room. And I can also come in here and I can make this larger or smaller by holding down my control. I can rotate it. I can do all kinds of things in here. But maybe I just want to use like this. Well, let's use like this room right here. So what I would actually do, because this is an interesting shape, is I can come in to my subtraction mode here, and I can just subtract out these sections that I don't want. Well, that's going to move that there. So we're going to move this back to where we want it. We might have to adjust this a couple of times. But see, with this subtraction section, like something like this, and now that I have the basic shape that I want, I can now come over in here, and I can grab these, and we can move these anywhere that we wish. Do something like that. And maybe I'll bring this over. And I basically just, and I might even fade out that edge a little bit too. Okay, why is it doing this? Oh, I have to be in the right. Fade that out a little bit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yep, exactly. You can do all of that kind of stuff now. It takes a little bit of manipulation. You know, you want to figuring out exactly how many occluders you want and how you want it to. I guess they're not occluders there; they're just points. But so yeah, if there's a staircase, or if there's a building that you want to, you can just grab it now and use it something like that. And then all you have to do, especially if you put it on its own layer, you can now just use it as its own particular image, just like that. And you can even actually squash it down and morph it a little bit after the fact with this new system. We could even rotate it. You can see that this changes the where that is, but you just have to find it again, put it back to where it was. So you can see we've actually squashed it and rotated it and whatnot. So yeah, all of that is completely possible. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you should be able to import a map, find exactly the staircase that you want to use, and then you can do all kinds of neat and kind of interesting things to kind of do that. You just want to add it in as a fill element. You know, make sure it's not a stroke, but a fill, and then you can interact with it to get the exact shape that you want, to extract it, and then you can even change its colors and do all the other fun stuff. And with the new tools that are set up here, we can kind of go back to here, and I'll just grab this one. You can even add in new different shapes. So if we just switch to an add, we can add in new shapes to these. It'll just become all one shape, as you can see here. Does anyone else have any other questions about the usage of the tools, or need a little bit more clarification? And also, do you guys have any ideas about what we should build today? Oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that sounds really cool, Drake. I'd love to see that. Well, I'm not exactly sure. So the question is, how would you use the dots to represent those distorted houses that you see in Warhammer? Well, I'm not exactly sure because I don't have a reference to what you're looking at, but I'll have to look it up, and then maybe on the next stream we'll dive into that. I'll get a couple of references and I'll show you how you can kind of do that. Oh yeah, I was just about to kind of show off some of the Western Mind stuff, Randy. So I think it's a great idea. So in the new Western map packs, I believe they'll be over here. We have two different distinct ones. The first one is more of the environmental stuff, the natural kind of environments, exteriors, and the other one is interiors. Inside the floor here we have stone floors, and in our brushes we have some mine shafts, as well as a couple of different ones here, as well as a wall itself. In our decorations, mostly we have all kinds of different types of bushes, cacti, always the classic barrels and crates and stuff. We have some dynamite, some nice grass. I use this grass a lot. It's one of my favorites so far, as well as coal and gold, lots of rock formations, wooden elements. I've also included a nice little end cap for the mines, and then some larger and more kind of robust rock formations and the like. So the way that this system is kind of set up, the way that I've kind of envisioned this, I'll show you how this is going to work here. What I'll actually do is we have a couple of different floors here, and one of them, what I like to do, and I wonder if I have it. No, I actually think that it's in. I wonder if it is in here. Let's have a look. Sometimes I actually make the maps inside of this particular campaign, but I don't believe I did. I think I actually did it in. I'm gonna have to organize these a little bit better. Oh yeah, we did this one a little while ago as well. This was a fun one. So let's just jump in. I thought I might have one that I could just show you immediately, and I'll kind of show you how the functionality of this. And I think we'll use this one. And what I'll actually do is I'll just switch over. I'm just going to grab this as a fill, and we'll make a pretty good section here. And so I'm just going to drag this out. When you interact with this system, it'll immediately create a new, I'm losing my mind here for a moment, a new layer, a new painting layer. So as soon as you interact with the system, it'll always make the appropriate. So if we go into effects, for example, and I just pick an effects, it'll immediately create a new layer of that already going there. So you don't have to make a new one unless I have a habit of always trying to control what layers things are on. So I'll oftentimes do that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger. We'll rotate it here a little bit. Do something like that. Now what I can do is I can switch back over. Let's grab our circle, and I think I'll do something like this. And I'm going to drag out something like that, and we'll add something to that as well. And then I'm going to switch over into here, and we'll fade out those edges. Just create some variety here. We can also switch back over. I can grab some of these and we can stretch these out. Make some nice variations in our texture here that we're going to be building on top of. And then once we jump over into here, what I'll actually do is I'm going to grab this darker fill element, right? This would normally just create like a fill like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a stroke to it. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go over into our brushes here. And I'm going to use my line tool here. We'll switch this over. And I'm going to put this as my stroke. What you'll be able to see here is as I draw this out, what I'm actually going to be doing is creating what looks like indents into what I'm actually working on here. And I can do exactly the same thing. I'm actually going to do this on a different layer. So I'm going to switch back over here to this element, and I'm just going to grab this and delete that. So I'm going to make a new layer because I want this to be a little bit separate. Oh, so we have a question from Twitch. Would you rather recommend making maps in FG or other software and then porting into FG? I would strongly recommend making them inside of FG. The way that the system is set up, it handles it exceptionally well. And you have total access to all the different layers, so you can kind of make very interactive maps that normally, like if you make it somewhere else and import it in, it'll be a single layer. And the way that the system actually is set up in working, for example, as we're working with these walls and the floor and whatnot, only a single image gets sent to your players, and then along with that the metadata. So it actually rebuilds the map for each of your players, which is great for networking. So now I'm going to switch back over. I'm going to do exactly the same kind of thing I did before, right? We're going to start to create, and I'll just draw out. I'm going to keep it on the add functionality here, and I'm going to start to draw out a nice shape. This will be our main room here. And I can just add to this. And maybe what I'll do is I'll bring this down and we'll create a little walkway down through here. And we can create another room on this side. And we can do some cool kind of shapes, something like this maybe. And I can come back in, and what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to double click this, and I'm just going to simplify these strokes. I'm going to make it a little bit more manageable for me to move these things around. And I'm going to widen this out, I think, a little bit like this. And here is something else that's really great, Fox, for when you're creating these kind of environments. Once I have this set up to be something that's close to what I want to do, all I have to do is switch over to my line of sight tab, and I just have to push a single button and it will generate all of my line of sight for me. I think I'm going to add a little bit more to this before we get going too much further, because I want to widen this out. I want this to be a little bit more natural looking. And we'll round those things out there a little bit. Now, if you wanted to make this the walls seem a little bit deeper or whatnot, all you'd have to do is make this a little bit larger. And so, for example, we could do exactly the same thing. And we can make this any shape that we wish. And then we'll bring this down, continue to add to this. Maybe we'll make a little way down through here. I think what I'll actually do is, again, I'm going to double click this and I'm going to simplify that. But I'm going to double click it. I'm just going to move it over a little. And we'll change some of these shapes. Kind of looks like a dinosaur footprint or something. Let's change that. And just as we were adding in, we can subtract just as easily. We can go over to our subtraction mode, and maybe I want to take away some of this. And then this is a little bit wonky over here, but let's again, we'll grab this and we'll just simplify that. And we'll switch that out a little bit. Just make this feel like a natural kind of cave. What I can do is I can switch back over. Let's switch into this mode, and I'm just going to grab this, and I'm going to move this over. And I'm going to hold down Control so it snaps to the grid. And we can go back into here, and I'm going to go, and we can make this like a natural cavern. And now I'm going to, well, I don't want to do it there. I'm going to do it on this one. And we can add in some nice little elements like this. And this will be like our mine area over here. And what I'll do is I'm just going to bring this in, and we'll make this a little bit rounder. Not quite so much. And maybe this will be like our entrance into the mine here. Oh yeah, Godzilla footprint. And let's switch back over, and we can go back and make sure we have our add-in element there. And what we'll do is maybe we'll do like another little section coming off of this way, kind of connecting those bits. And we'll just change that out, something like that. So here we have a really simple kind of shape in here. We'll build this up from here. So here we are in our decorations. We can switch back over now. We're going to switch over to our stamp tool, and we can start to add in these elements. Now, one of the things that you want to think about, oh, looks like we have a question. How do we add a dot in an occluder that already exists? There are times where I need to add one but cannot figure out how to do it. Oh, really simple. So you're talking about occluders in like line of sight? I'll create a new, let's just create a wall layer here, and I'll draw out a box here for you. So here we have a regular box, and maybe I want to add in an occluder right here. I'll just switch to the line and double click there. And I'll just now double click the line and hit delete. And now I've created an occluder right where I wanted it to be. And I can actually move this. So if I want the occluder to be, anywhere along there, I can just move it. So you can actually create as many dots as you want to. All you have to do is just go across the line itself, and it will generate those lines right there for you. Yeah. Now if you want to remove one of these, all you have to do is select them and hit backspace. If I select it and I hit delete, it'll delete that entire line section. But that's basically it. So I'm just going to delete that for right now. So as I was saying before, when you interact with the system, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you build from the ground up. I'm actually going to move some of this stuff so we get some of this. As you can see, all this is doing is creating some variation. And we drag this over, maybe something like that. So we get some nice variations in this pattern that's kind of in the background here. Oh yeah, you're very welcome. So what we'll do first is we'll create some nice little textures on the ground itself. And we can actually create a new painting layer on top of that. We should start naming these. So this is going to be background. And then this is going to be, I guess we'll just call this tunnels. And then this will be like the decor layer on top here. So again, we can do a couple of different things. Oh, we can also create an effects layer, for example, and go into our effects tab. Let's put this down underneath here. And maybe we'll go to adjust colors, and we'll do something that's a little bit more yellowy. And then I'm going to create a mask for this, and then I can start to draw out some shapes, change some colors here. We might even want to make it a little bit darker or lighter. And then we can blur out those edges. Let's make it a little bit darker. Well, yeah, maybe we'll do something like that. And what I'm doing is holding down Alt. Well, I can draw out any shape I want. If I don't, it's just going to do like squares. And if I hold down Shift and Alt, I can take away. Again, just creating some more variation in whatever it's going to be on the bottom there. And I'll grab some of these rocks, these rock groupings, something like this. Switch back over into my painting tab, and maybe I'll grab something like this. I'm going to hold down R, G, and B to make these a little bit darker, I think. Well, actually, let's just make it, make them a little bit closer to the color of some of this stuff. So I'm actually going to open up my my tint color picker, and I'm going to grab this guy, and we'll do something like that. I'm going to hit OK, and then I'm going to hold R, G, and B and just going to move it up. I'm going to make it a little bit lighter, maybe something along these lines, maybe just a tad darker. And I'm going to hold down Control and use my mouse wheel and make these a little bit smaller. And whoop, I want to make sure that I'm in this painting tab. And I'm just going to make a couple of groupings of this here and there. We're going to be building this up a little bit more and adding shadows and whatnot. So these are going to look a little bit out of place for the moment. Let's do the same thing with this. And again, I can do exactly the same kind of thing. And if I want to, if I wish, what I can actually do is grab this hexadecimal code once I get something to exactly where I want to, and then I can just copy and paste that in there. But I'm going to keep this fairly close to the same kind of colors. And why don't I do that? I'm just going to grab this hexadecimal code, hit Control C. That way any of these rocks that are in the same kind of coloration, I can just kind of grab them. Paint these things around. just changing the size and the rotation. So my mouse wheel will zoom in and out, but if I hold down Control, it'll change the size of the stamping image. And if I hold down Shift, it'll change its rotation. So you can begin to build up these layers fairly quickly. Maybe we'll grab some of these larger rocks too. Whoop, I didn't mean to drag and drop that in there. And again, we can just open this up and hit Control V, hit OK, and you can see that that's going to make it exactly the same. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to start to add in some of these mine supports and up over these. So I'm just kind of laying down the groundwork underneath. And then once we get a lot of the stuff that we have kind of built up here, we can add in some gold and some other elements as well. Make it feel like it's a little bit of an actual used space. We might even want to take some of these like these grass elements, and if we're going to create an entrance over here, I think what we'll actually do though is we'll make it like a area coming down. But we can always do like a little bit of foliage or something right over here. Maybe we'll grab it like this one. And what I'll do is I'll hold down A and use my mouse wheel to lower down the opacity and kind of blend this off on the sides here a little bit. We'll actually create like a little shaft of light coming down there. That sounds fun. So now we have like some of these lantern posts and some of these mine supports and whatnot. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to start to use these around too. And I'm going to do this all on this same layer here, as you can see. But again, we want to make sure that we kind of build up. So if we're going to do any like platforms or anything along those lines, we want to make sure that we kind of put those in there. We have some like ladders and so on as well. Yeah, why don't we do that? Why don't we build a couple of like little platforms and whatnot, and then put these up and out around it as well. So we might even create a couple of different layers here. What I'll actually do is I'm going to call it all the way out here, and I'm going to go into the second Western map pack. And inside there we actually have some really great, and here we have some different like boards and whatnot. Here's some more roof stuff. But we have like these boards with bands and these things. These will create some really cool kind of elements in here. So we can bring this right over. I'm going to turn off the stroke and I'm going to switch over to the fill and we'll drop something in there just like that. Now we don't have to worry about the rotation or anything right here. We'll handle that all after the fact to kind of get this the way that we want it to, and I'm going to show you how we can kind of interact with this system a couple of different ways here. So we'll create a new painting layer. And what I'm actually going to do is just going to drag out. I'm going to hold down Control so it snaps to the grid. And I'm just going to drag out something maybe like this. And this is going to be like a nice little platform over here. We're going to put it against the side of the wall. Now because I put this into its own separate layer, we can go into the Layers tab. And now I can just rotate this. So I'm going to hold down Control and I'm going to grab this little widget. And I can move this around anywhere I want to. And again, I can hold down Control while I drag it. And I can put this right where I want. Now the cool thing about this is now I can switch back over into this tab and I can now move these around and it's going to follow the orientation that I've created for this. So if I grab these and I can move these in now and maybe line this up. I think we'll actually make it longer. We'll do something like this, but we'll make it a little bit more narrow. So I'm going to do that, hold down Shift and grab this one. We can move these right in, something like this, keeping it fairly accurate to the board side there. Now, if I wanted to, I could have added a natural stroke to this, which would just be like a painting, like a little bit of a line around it, which we may want to end up doing. I might even actually add that in after the fact, but for right now, I think that'll be okay. Now in this tab, if I wanted to add in some different elements around, I might, but I think that's going to be good. We'll do some different other stuff, but just to kind of show you how that would interact and how that would work. Well, actually, you know what? Let's do that. Let's add a little bit of a stroke to it. So I'm just going to delete that, and we'll do this over again here. So I'm going to hold down Control, and I'm just going to drag out a section. You can see that it's rotated there. So let's hold this back. Interesting. Here, let's delete that layer. We'll create a new one, and I'll reapply this. Get this back to normal here. But first, let's add a stroke to it. So I'm just going to switch back over, add a stroke here, and I'm actually going to switch to Paint tab. And I'm going to make this have a little bit of a stroke that's going to be something akin to some of these darker colors here. And I'm going to shrink this down to something that's going to be appropriate as well. So now when I drag this out, you can see it's got this nice line around it, like it would be some sort of actual asset object. And now again, we can switch back over, and we can rotate this, and we can drag this right into place, something like that. Switching back to my painting tab, I can now augment this a little bit further if I wish. I can grab these, and we can just drag this out, maybe to something like here. And we'll do this one just beyond that band, something like that. Oh, maybe just a little bit further. We can maybe go to something like here. Awesome. Now let's go to the other Western art package and into our decorations here. So we can move over to some of these mine supports, and we'll grab. I think we'll start off. Let's do some of these ones that are just straight up and down. So I'm going to switch over to my stamp tool here. Let's do this one first. And we can start to build the stuff. So this would be like a little archway. We have this nice little scaffolding on the side here. Maybe we'll do something like this. These would be all of these wooden braces and whatnot, which would be used to hold up some of this stuff. Let's flip this. Maybe we'll do it this way. And now we have a couple of cool layers here. We can kind of go above and below and all of that sort of stuff. So that this should be pretty fun here. And we can flip it this way. Maybe do one on this side. And let's do a couple of these like little lantern posts. Maybe we'll do one coming off of the corner. Let's grab some of these sacks. I'm going to go to the lower one. We'll do some like poking out from underneath here. Something like this. Well, we can put this underneath too. We could do something like that. And maybe we'll build something over on this side. Let's do it this way. Well, you know what we should do? We'll build like a pit here, and we'll put some stuff over it. Maybe we'll do like a something that's going down into the ground here. Now we can come back down to this layer here. Let's add in some of these other type of rocks and stuff. So we can do like maybe some coal mixed in here. And we should definitely add in some gold too, right? We'll do like some little nuggets. Scattered about. Just hints. Now before we go too much further, I think I'm going to add in some shadow kind of content here. So we'll create a new effects layer. And again, I'm going to go down to and adjust colors. We'll just darken it in a little bit. Let's do it to something like 46. And maybe we'll bring down some of these colors as well. This might be a little bit too dark. We'll see here in a moment. And we're going to create a new mask. And we're going to start to paint in some shadows off of these walls. And we're going to blur out those edges. Let's blur it all the way out. I'm going to do this over the top of everything here. We can kind of create some nice little areas like this. Darkness. And this is what's going to help kind of sell that depth. And we're going to paint in some other shadows as well. We'll do a little bit coming off of here, but not as much. But we're going to want some coming out from underneath this stuff. This might be a little bit too dark, so maybe we'll increase this. Let's do something like maybe like 48. Yeah, that might be a little bit better. Make it a little bit more subtle. And we want to keep this pretty open. We're going to do like light coming down there. I feel like that it would be like a shaft kind of coming down. We'll create another one over here as well. We might even want to do that. Kind of set up the precursor for it now. We'll do like a little pit there. I think we're going to make this a little bit less, not quite so dramatic there. We'll move this in a little. And we can add in a little bit for some of these rocks and stuff as well. Also, if you guys have any ideas while we're creating this, please throw them at me. Let's grab a couple of these barrels. We'll switch back over into here. Make sure we're down here. Place these around as well. We got to do some dynamite, right? All right, so what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to grab this little round stamp here, and I'm going to make this quite dark, and then I'm going to drop down the opacity of it quite a lot. Switching down here, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to create a little bit of a, just going to click along the underneath this. It's going to help give this a little bit of a of depth here. And I'm going to uncheck my aspect lock ratio, and we're going to make this kind of oblong here. Let's make this a little bit narrower. I'm actually going to do like a little subtle kind of shadow for our little archway there. And we can do a little bit in some of these areas as well. This is what I'm actually going to use to kind of come in here and just add a little bit of additional kind of shadow content from some of these. I'm just kind of clicking, creating these little ambient areas, ambient occlusion, and some of these corners in here, we can darken up those as well. And we'll be adding in our light sources and whatnot. This is more just for, we want some off these barrels. We want them to feel as though that they are kind of submerged in the darkness. And then we'll go up to this next layer and we'll do some along here as well. We can do a little bit off of this dynamite. We'll move this over just a little bit. Again, we're not trying to do anything that is ultra difficult. We're just adding in a little bit of, and you can see how well that this kind of blends in. It feels like a pre-built little asset that we just kind of added in there. I'm going to do some of these little narrow areas in here too. And you can see as we move out, this is really starting to feel like an actual environment, right? Do some larger ones here. Excellent. What I'm actually going to do is, well, let's start to build this. I'm actually going to go down to the tunnel layer down here. I'm going to hold the A button, and I'm going to make this quite a bit more opaque here. And we'll stamp right where we put this adjust colors. And this is going to be our edge to our pit. We're going to start to build up around that. So we go into our decorations back here. We have a nice little wooden kind of element here. So I'm going to grab this. Make that a little bit smaller. I think if we make it something like that. I think we're going to move these back actually. So I'm just going to grab these and move them back here a little bit. So basically all we're doing is kind of building out this kind of makeshift structure here. Maybe what we'll do is do something like this. And we can grab this, and I can grab this guy once again. And we'll add in a little bit of shadow content to this stuff. Make it feel like it's a little bit more part of the scene. And we'll go along this edge here. Yeah, very cool. So now we have pretty much everything all set up here. All we have to do is go to our tunnels layer here. And we can switch over to our line of sight. We can create all of our line of sight for the area. And then we can start to build in our lights. So to do that, I'm going to switch over and I'm going to turn all of this stuff on. And then I'm going to switch over to the lighting tab and we'll go to add light. We'll just drop one in here. And we're going to make this one a bit yellow, kind of coming in from the outside. Let's bring down the brightness here to maybe something like that. Just kind of want this like spot that's kind of coming down. I think we'll increase the dim area in here. Let's actually increase the fall off there a little bit, so it's a little bit more of a gradual kind of thing. And then we have a couple of lanterns, so we can switch back over. I'm actually going to grab, well, no, we can do something different for the other ones. So let's go to add light. And if we wanted to, we could actually create like a really nice like edge here, but I kind of like that where it's just kind of like drifts off. And what I should actually do too, before we get going too much further, is in this effects layer, I should take it off some of these areas. So So we'll add one there. That's a bit too big. There, and there, and here. Now these are, we're going to adjust all these. So what we're going to actually do is select all these ones. And we can do these all at the same time. So with them all selected, we can now change all of these different parameters. So maybe what we'll do is bring down the dim. Maybe we'll do something like 6. Do like 3. And we can change their color. We can make them a little bit more orangey. And then we can also add in some flicker. And now let's switch over and we can turn this on to kind of see what these environments will look like from a player's perspective. Maybe what we'll do is we'll get rid of this one. Or we could move it. Why don't we move it down in through here? Oops. Let's move that back. Let's just select this one. Maybe we'll do it like here. Yeah, that's probably better. We'll do something like that. And now let's actually, I think we're going to smooth these out a little bit. So let's go back to here. Now we can grab these. I think what we'll have to do is adjust this too. Yeah. Very cool. We might even want to go into our ambient lighting here. And what that will do is just create this really like subtle ambience. Very cool. Yeah, do you guys have any questions? Or that's a pretty straightforward little map that we just created. You can see how quickly and easily you can kind of create these. I'll give you guys a minute in case you have any questions. Otherwise, I'm going to take a short break and heat up my coffee and grab a little bit more water, and then we'll come back and continue on this journey. All right, well, I don't see any questions, so I'm going to take a, as I said, a short break. I'll be back in just a few moments, as soon as I stretch my legs and refresh my beverages. So just please hang out, and we'll be right back, and we'll make something new. All right, be right back. All right, we're back. Thanks everyone for hanging out while I took a short little break there. Make some minor adjustments on this before we move on. But yeah, very cool. You can see how powerful the map making tools are inside of Fantasy Grounds Unity. Um, Definitely create some really nice. Well, from my standpoint, I think that it's the best creation system I've seen out there. So it's very versatile and allows for quite easily and absolutely high-end looking maps in a very limited amount of time. And you can see that in the creation process, it actually is quite easy to uh, create any shape that you wish, as well as uh, put together in a very reasonable amount of time a very kind of almost believable looking environment and immersive. We should even jump in here and check it out with our little buddy Bob. And we can just drop him right in here. And we'll turn our environment on here. Let's give Bob his own little light so he can kind of move around and see. You can see with that ambient light source, as you look through here, you get this really kind of spooky environment. We can kind of mess around with that by looking at it through Bob's eyes here. So if we go to our ambient light here, all we have to do is just kind of adjust this. Let's see it with without the ambient light. Let's turn it right off. Yeah, here we have nice little overlap of our um, lantern lights. And then if we turn our ambient light back on here, see we get this little bit of visibility through there. And we can darken this up too. You always want to kind of test it with the environment, with the characters. I would say we probably just leave it right off. And we can give him his own little light source. Let's increase the size of that a little bit here. Very cool. All right. Is no questions? We'll move on to something else. So what should we make next, guys? Any suggestions? Let's have a look here. Can you be a little bit more specific? So David says how to make cuts in walls or polygons. I make shapes, but I want to open spaces. So I'm not exactly sure what you mean. Are you talking about? Let's have a look here. Let's create a new workspace here, and let's go to. I'll go into the. Let's go into an interior map pack. Oh, okay. So you're saying, well, there's a couple of different ways that you can approach that. Yeah, there's a couple of different ways that we can approach this. So let's set up the couple of scenarios here. So I'll grab a floor. We'll do something like this one, and then we'll go to brushes. We'll grab stone wall. I guess we'll grab this one. So you're saying you create your little area down here, and you want to put in a door over here, and you're not exactly sure how. Well, there's a couple of different ways that we can approach it. If we're putting these together, or if we're separating them. So if I turn this off and I create my floor, and then I turn this off and I create a new painting layer, I can switch over to my line, turn my stroke back on, and let's say I want a door over here. I can just snap out my elements like that and leave this open, and I can grab my eraser tool and I could erase out another section over here, for example. But in order to use the eraser tool to eliminate this, it needs to be just the stroke without the fill. If we come into here, right, and we use our eraser tool, you can see it's just going to change that. We don't want that, right? So hit Control Z to undo it. So if you're creating a scenario like this, what you actually want to do is you want to turn the stroke off. We'll turn our image fill back on. And all I need to do is draw out a little fill to the area that I want my door to be in. So let's say if I want it to be in the same spot over here, I'm just going to create a nice little fill section. Whoop. Let's fix that up here a little bit. something like this that's just going to fill in that spot. And if you really want to, you can actually like line this up where it's supposed to be and all that stuff. But either one of those is the solution probably for doing that. Oh, so we have another question here. Is what is the best way to use a token like fire lines or cone spell templates in play? Yeah, we can do a couple of different ways there for using spell templates. So we actually have an asset pack that is spell templates. Let's get over to that. Now, there's no way for a player to actually use images on the playing field besides their actual token itself. And if we get into our spell templates here, I usually drag and drop these onto the actual playing field because these are all set up. These ones are specifically set up for 5e. But let's turn on our grid system here. So if I were to grab and drop this over here, you can see that this will fit exactly in the spot that it's supposed to be. And then if you're in your layers tab, you can move this around and rotate it and do whatever you want to it. Something like this. But all of these will be dragged and dropped out into their exact appropriate size. And one of the things that you can do is you can actually load up. So let's say your hotkey bar down here at the bottom, I use these all the time for images. You can have several of these. So if you hold down Alt, Control, or Shift, you have a whole nother selection of bars, and then any combination of those. So you have lots of different bars down here. So let's say, for example, you put all of the commonly used spells on Control. So let's say we have Burning Hands. We can just drag and drop that there. Maybe you have somebody who uses Cloud Kill a lot, and so on. So all you have to do is actually grab them from down here, and then you can drag and drop them right onto the playing field and move them around to wherever you'd like. That's how I kind of interact with them. And then you'll have them on these individual layers, which you can then interact with any way that you wish. Oh yes, if you're talking about just like the occluders for putting indoors, not the images themselves, then yeah, you can just to cover all of our bases here, we can let's create our occluder wall here. If we then switch over to door, because the door options, the trimmed interior occluders is on, all you have to do is just drag out a circle and it'll trim it automatically for you. But you can do this with all the occluders, you just have to make sure you turn it on. But for example, let's say let's go through a couple of these so that we can talk about the different use case scenarios and good practices of how to do this. Let me just turn down the this element here and go back into here. So let's turn this back on. Oh no, we want this back on. Okay. So we'll grab our circle. So if you guys are building a building, right? And let's say you want to have, and I'm gonna make let's make this. I'm gonna make this a little bit of a different color here, just for easy, so you can see from the floor really easily. So let's say, for example, you guys are creating a building, and you're going to be using all the same floors and all the same walls throughout the entire building. All you have to do is create the exterior kind of footprint of the building itself. So let's say, we might as well just turn on grid snap so that this all, it's pretty easy. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create our element here, and then let's switch to our add. Let's say that there is a large kind of section that comes in this way, and then maybe even we have a circular section here, and then we'll create here, and then maybe there's another large area over here. But then we have walls on the inside here. So all you do is you've created the whole outside here. So if you think about this as like its entirety, now all you have to do is just turn off the fill, and you can even do this on a separate layer, or you can do it on the same layer, and then switch to your line tool. What you'll want to do is now create your walls on the interior wherever they're going to be, right? So we're just going to start dragging these out from the edges. Say maybe there's a wall here, like this. Perhaps there's a wall here. So you don't really have to run into too many obstacles. Maybe this is actually going to be like a section here. Where this is going to be a wall. And then maybe here. Right, so basically what you're going to do is you're just going to create your whole exterior kind of footprint, right? The silhouette of the area that you're creating. And then build all your walls on the interior. But you can do this lots of different ways. If you're going to be changing your floors throughout and doing different sections and whatnot, the easiest way to do that is to create your entire floor section on one layer, and then do all your walls on the second layer, and then you can kind of manipulate it extremely easily. You can erase things and whatnot without any sort of problem. The issue that we run into is because the eraser can't distinguish between the fill element and the stroke element. And so if they're all on the same layer, it'll always try to maintain that same preset of the stroke with the fill on the inside. But you can certainly, it's very easy to kind of overcome. If we look at, for example, let's go here. I think we have a Victorian building that we started to do. Yeah. And so here we have lots of different wall types and lots of different elements, and we just you keep the walls and so the floors are here on separate areas, and then we have our walls here on a completely different layer. I think we have some that are not this one. This one? Yeah, this one has quite a lot of stuff on it, I believe. So here we've done a mixture of both of those in this post-apocalyptic environment that we were creating a while back. And if we open this up here, we can look at, here's walls. Oh yeah, you can still do it all on one layer. Like I said, all you have to do is after the fact, especially if you have snap to grid on. You can do that by holding down control at any time, but control will kind of uh, switch whatever this is set to the opposite. But you just go to your image fill. Yeah, let's grab that to make sure we're there. No, not stroke. We want this. Yeah, that's working. But you just come in and as long as you have a decent like snap, you can just snap it right to there. And you might need to come back in, like I said, and just adjust that to kind of line up with the other elements. But it's super easy to do. And then you can create to your heart's content without having to worry too much about it. Super simple. Do you have any other questions like that? And the other thing that you can actually do is in these scenarios, you can subtract, so you can make some really cool shapes and whatnot. You can subtract this out and it will add a wall to the inside of there as well. Make these like circular kind of elements. And here's a really cool thing too, like this is a little bit off kilter. I can just come in here and grab these points and we can move them just like that. You can make pretty much any shape that you wish. Super fun. And even after the fact, if you want to move something, for example, if you want this to be wider, you can just move it. You can literally make anything that you'd want, as far as, especially for like structures or shapes. And you can come in after the fact as well and change a lot of the parameters. Interior locations now are unbelievably easy to make inside of Fantasy Grounds. And the coolest thing about it is that having created it inside of Fantasy Grounds, it'll automatically generate all of your line of sight for you. And you can do it in a couple of different areas. Like you can go into your Edit tab, and here we have Duplicate Selected as walls. So we could just select this particular grouping, not any of the interiors, and do it that way. Or we can select everything. We can kind of have a little bit more control as we move around the map. And one of the things that I showed, I think last time, it's one of the reasons why we started to make that other environment, is that you can duplicate this. For example, let's and just for demonstration purposes, we'll rotate this, and then I'm going to squash it, and we can make an isometric map. Maybe we won't squash it quite that much. Yeah, maybe we will. You can squash it all the way. But you can make it completely isometric map from exactly your top down as well. Oh, well, that's a good question, Felix. So that will happen for a couple of different reasons. One, it always has to be exactly the same parameters that you have set up for this. So let's say, for example, I'm going to go back to this over here. All I have to do is grab this sample settings from the selected image, and I have to click on that, and then make sure that you have your add selected. So now what I can do is I can come back in here, and I can add to this. If it doesn't add to it, that means that some of the parameters have changed. It has to be exact. So if it's not exact, then it won't add to it. It'll create a new image on top. And make sure you're also in the same layer. So just double check all of that stuff. Otherwise, it should add to it without a problem. So if I were to for example, if I were to change the shape, the size of this wall, and try to add to this, it will not add. I can add to that again, but I can't add to this. It has to be exactly the same. So let me go back in here, and I can double click this. But all I have to do is, let's say I'm in my box here, I'm just going to grab my little sample settings, and boom, it's going to reset that, and now I'll be able to add to this. So what happens is either something has changed, you've come in and made an adjustment to the fill. So if I were to, let's say, for example, fade this out after the fact, the edges here, or maybe change the color, then it won't add to it because it has to be exactly the same. But all I have to do to actually add to it is just grab this little picker, and then it will make all of those adjustments for me. And then now I'll be able to add to it. Sure, all you have to do, it's super simple. You don't have to reset anything. All you have to do is in one of these, either the line, rectangle, or ellipse tool, you'll see that there's a little sample settings from paint object. Make sure you're on the correct layer where your paint object is. Click this little icon, this little eyedropper. You'll see that it highlights, and then hover over an area where it is and click. Once it goes away, it'll set all of these parameters, as you can see here. Then once you have this all set up, and make sure that you have the add overlap added there, now you can add to any of these objects that you've already done there. What I'm assuming happens is you make some sort of adjustment and then try to go back and add it without making the adjustments to the new elements that you have in there, which you can't add unless it's exactly the same. So if I wanted to add to this, for example, I have to make sure I'm on the correct layer. I can do this and then select that, and now I can add to that, as you can see there. And you can see that these are two completely different images now because I've changed the color of my background. So switching back over here, I will not be able, I'll just switch over to my rectangle tool. This will not add because it's not the same. So if I hit Control Z and go back, I'm just going to grab this eyedropper tool, click right in here, and now I can add to it. Yeah, you're very welcome. Do you guys have any other questions about any of that stuff? Sure. Yep. So let's say you wanted to join two sections. You can't really join them in a normal way. So let me go. Let's change this tint back. Let's put this back to where it would normally be. I'm not sure why it's not showing up in the little preview window, but let's say. And now let's say I want to create another, like a room here. What I would do is I would either overlap it or whatnot. And you want to do a join in through here. So this could be anything that is different or whatnot. We might even want to, let's snap this right up so it evens out here a little bit. Yeah, there's all you'd want to do is just cover over this area here. So I would switch back over, turn off my stroke, and then whatever it is that I'm going to add in through here, I'm going to put a doorway or whatnot. I might even use a completely different fill. But we can just do something like this, and there you go. Very simple. Oh yeah, certainly. Dive right in there. Super fun. Yep, you could certainly do it that way. So a great way, and that's a great question. Um, all you have to do is if you go into your Assets tab here, I'll go all the way up. Let's go all the way up. There's a little folder button down here. If you click that, a pop-up will open up, and you can just drag any images that you want to. That will be specific to that campaign. But you can also put it in the generalized image folder, which will be accessible across all of them. And yep, and then to access that, you'll have two elements up here. You'll have a campaign one, which will be all of those images, which will be right in there. And then the data folder will be the one for all images that you can kind of use across the board in all of your campaigns. So either one of these where you place them in those folders, you can use them. Complete access. Yeah. So you are free to create any of your own assets and use them inside of here. Yeah, very cool. These are actually some maps that I made for recent. I have them loaded in here. If you guys want to check them out. These ones are from the new medieval buildings pack that I put together, which should be super fun. Oh yes, there's a Newcastle one as well. Oh yeah, that's easy to do as well. So all you have to do if you want to export, um, one of the great things that you can do inside of Fantasy Grounds is you can have a specific campaign that you build all of your maps in, and then you can export them as modules. So if you go into your modules folder, what you'll see at the bottom, well, your modules button here, what you see at the bottom is the export button. So you just click this, and you'll get a little pop-up. And as you can see here, let's clear these out. So all we have to do is, let's say I was going to export. Let's see, we have a Battlefield 1 here. Oh, let's do the jungle, beach, and cliff. That'll be a good one. So here's one that we built a while ago. And what I'll actually do, all you have to do is drag and drop it into the module export. So here's a place that we built a little while ago with some of the jungle as well as a couple of the other asset packs. And it's got a little cliff entrance with a little cliff on the side here, which you can hide if you're not going to use it. So here's a map that we made. And all you have to do is take this. You can do it a couple of different ways, but this little icon, you just have to drag and drop it into this area, and it will go to the appropriate tab here. You can name this whatever you wish. And you got to have a name here as well. And once you have all of this set up, you can set it up so that it's for any rule set. Otherwise, it'll be specific to the rule set that you're actually doing this in. And then you just hit the export button. And once you hit that export button, it'll generate for you automatically inside of your modules folder module that contains that whole image file. And you can put all of them in there if you wish and have them all in one module. And then from there, you can go into any one of your campaigns and just load up that module. I don't have any specific modern hospital or Victorian hospital ones out yet, but those are on the horizon. Oh, you have to run a session in a keep? There's already quite a lot of assets that we've released that you could probably use to make anything you wish. But yeah, for the specific, the castle one will be coming out in July. There's two art packs that'll be coming out in July that are kind of related. One is medieval buildings, and the other is an actual castle one. And so the castle one, if you guys want to have like a quick little sneak peek at it, don't tell anyone though. We go into our assets here, FG Castle Map Pack. So here we have like a whole bunch of different brushes and whatnot, very classic kind of stuff. But what I actually did is created like a cool little system here by which you can use a roof brush with, let's say, lots of really cool fills for doing like different cool floors and whatnot that you might find in like these regal environments. But you can also use these to create like cool carpets and stuff and lots of fun stuff. But here, let's no, not that one. Let's go to this one. And we can jump over here. I'll just show you a really quick demonstration of how you can create some cool. Let's delete these, and we'll create a new painting layer. So if we grab, let's say, the stone floor, and then we go into our brushes, and we switch over to stroke here. So what you can actually do is create, let's switch that to a mitered. All of these cool kind of castle-y environment stuff here. Maybe we'll do like a little bit of a rounded section. Oh, we want to do an add here. And then maybe we'll do a little bit more on the. So you can create all of these cool castle tops and whatnot, and then we have all of the pre-made. This is for doing interiors and exteriors as well. So we can kind of do. We can do like, well, maybe we'll make. This will be super fun, I think, to make lots of really cool environments. And then we can actually add in different other elements too. So if we wanted to make this its own separate little, yeah, super fun. And then we have like these window elements that we can kind of place along the edges. Yeah, so I'm super excited to be able to dive in and show you how to create some really cool kind of environments. Snap this stuff to the grid. Line that up a little bit better. And then we can come in here and in our brushes, we can switch over to like some of these like railing brushes. We can make like these little like railing areas. And again, we can do the same thing here. We can add to this. I would line that up a little bit better if I was actually trying to do this correctly, but well, we can make it a little bit smaller actually. Control Z. Let's do it again. Pretty close to the center. Yeah, like that. Oh yeah, looks like that didn't quite but you guys get the picture. Cool stuff. And then it's got all the stuff for building like stuff on the interior as well. So you can do like cool big halls and whatnot inside of castles. Super looking forward to when that comes out for us building an awesome castle. Maybe we'll make like a Gothic kind of castle environment. But then the other thing that's going to be coming out is medieval buildings. And what I did with this is I kind of went in a completely different direction. Did a bunch of pre-made maps, as well as a lot of pre-made structures. So here we have all kinds of like pre-made buildings and whatnot. You can just kind of grab and either drag and drop them in, or you can stamp them in, and to make like environments super fast. And you can layer these on top of each other, which is kind of how I did when I created this this environment. These are just the same different buildings kind of like layered on top of each other. But here I made a bunch of really cool, and there's tons of them. But here I made a whole bunch of really like cool brushes and whatnot that you can kind of use. It'll be coming out in July, Jiminy. So where we have something like this, and you can build all kinds of like platform environments and stuff. Oh, is it? And in addition to that, there's lots of different fills and whatnot that I created. Lots of new backgrounds and stuff for creating some really cool kind of environments. So basically what I did was created certain backdrops where you could quickly throw together like little towns and environments. So I did so like building like this quick little farm, really fast and easy. And then combining the two art packs should be super fun. And then with the new fill and brush type stuff, we can really add a whole bunch of cool features. So a lot of exciting stuff. Yeah, you're so very welcome, Christopher. Yes, yes. So specific fill. So separating things that are completely designed just for like the fill system will be in its own folder, and they have their own tag as well. So if you type in fill, for example, you'll get all the new fill elements. So like I created like these cool like cobblestone fills and whatnot. And rock elements for creating really cool environments really quickly. And so basically what you can do is, let's say, create like, do grass in here and then jump over and maybe fade that out a little bit, make patches and stuff. Yeah, so it should be super fun. Expanding on the usage of the tools and getting them to a point where you have a really good marriage between what can or pre-built elements and with enough customization where you can build something super fast, but or also dive in there and really get into it, right? So as you can see here, it's the same texture as this building here. So if you want to build your own elements as well, or if you wanted to just expand on this, you can just grab a fill, and then you can build this off. This is obviously too large here and in the wrong direction. So let's make that smaller and rotate it to the right direction, and then you could maybe move this, yeah, and then create additional kind of elements off of these pre-built structures and whatnot. Augment them even further. But in addition to that, once you get into that actual art package itself, and you can see how they'll kind of stack on top of each other. So creating these additional kind of elements is like super fast. And I even did a bunch of like pre-made ones as well. So you can just kind of like stamp them in. With different roof types and whatnot. So you can build these like really complex kind of structures really fast. And environments. And then we can there's even like fill elements for more stonework and I mean more stuff. Yeah, cool. I think it'll be great for building like really cool structural environments. Because once you start to layer in all of the other kind of elements around, as you can see like this, you can really build up these super fast. Make these cool little environments. All right. Does anyone else have any questions? We're kind of winding down here. It's about 5:30, so I think this is probably a good time to kind of close it out. Now, I will not be here this next Saturday, as it's a holiday weekend here, and so I'm not going to be streaming that Saturday, but I will be back the following one. I think that it's the 2nd of July. Yeah, so I'll be back on the 9th. Oh yeah, sure. This is the modern dark theme. Yeah, do you have any other questions about it, or is there a? I have it's a 4K monitor, and the ratio is 16 by 9. The light gray box behind the window title text. So up here. So that's going to change based off of the length of the letters, and that's going to be controlled by the rule set. So if you tell me a specific one, I can look into it and see. So the size of that window changes. But I can look into that, see if that can, if you give me the specifics. As you can see here, it just barely fits in there. Yeah, I can look into that. Not a problem. Yeah, I'll check it out. Yeah, we will be having more themes coming out. As far as like what they are and when, I'm not exactly sure. I actually have a couple of other themes that have already been created. Yeah, sure, Dark Soul. I'll dig in there and see what I can do. Oh, they should be soon, Jiminy. I would imagine. Should be two new ones. Stream maps 3 and 4. Yeah, no problem. I appreciate it. That's so there's a wish list that you can which there's a entry for that on there, I believe. I don't have the link readily available, but um, there's a wish list where you can vote for, and that's one of the things that we use to kind of identify what we have very limited resources on what we kind of work on at any one particular time. So all of those kind of functionalities are heavily influenced by that list. Yeah, that's true. But there's yeah, that's what I would do as well. Just stretch it across both monitors, but All right, guys. Well, if is there any other questions before I jump out of here? Yeah, that's true. If you maximize it, it only does do it on one display. Oh yes, tonight, Fabled Dice at 9 p.m. I think he's doing a Fallout one shot. I think Bryce is doing. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I'll see you in 2 weeks. I won't be here this one, but we'll be here the next one. So have a great couple of weeks, everyone, and we'll see you all soon. Thanks, everybody, and take care.